Yeah, thanks everyone. So I'll just give us a short welcome on behalf of Silicon Beach. My name is Abdullah. I'm the lead organizer of Melbourne Silicon Beach and the few other Silicon Beaches around the country. So thanks everyone for joining us today for this special Q&A with Allied Legal, one of our valuable sponsors. So we are now open for sponsorships. I'll put details up in chat if you're and connect with me if you want to sponsor. Silicon Beach is about empowering founders. We have a big, hairy, audacious goal of moving Australia to #2 startup nation in the world by 2025. We have slipped down 2 places from #5 last year to #7 this year. No surprises there. We have hard work, a lot of work to do to get us up. So we are on a mission to do that. We have Silicon Beaches around the country, in most capital cities, and we're opening more to bring the community together. So Allied Legal is one of our valuable sponsors. If any of you watching this on the recording want to connect with us and find out how to sponsor us or partner or have an event like this, just send me an email. You could reach me at Abdullah, @siliconbeachgroup.org, or just send the team, I'll put in the Slack details, and as we can connect on LinkedIn, all those details will be on chat as well. With that, I'll hand over to Charles to start the official proceedings today.
Thanks, Atula, and thanks everybody for coming along. So welcome to the Allied Legal Q&A, which is held in conjunction with Silicon Beach. Here you're going to have the chance to ask any questions relating to the business development or legal side of your startup or startups generally. First off, we'd like to thank Atula and Silicon Beach for hosting us. Silicon Beach does so much great work for the startup community here in Australia, so we're really happy to be working alongside and sponsoring them, as Atula mentioned. The main reason why we want to hold these Q&A sessions is because we get that, seeking legal advice or retaining a business development expert, it can be expensive and it's not always prioritized, especially by early stage startups. But that being said, we really strongly believe that these are very important areas which should be given a great deal of attention by founders from day one. So we want to run these sessions to give you the opportunity to access advice on these areas, being our areas of expertise on a complementary basis. A little bit about us. Adelaide Legal is a firm that specializes in startups, international businesses, and small businesses. Inder, on the top screen, give us a wave, Inder. He's one of our directors. He's a business development expert with over 30 years of experience in this field. This includes working in sales and marketing for IBM at a global capacity. The last 10 years, he's worked in the startup sector here in Australia in business development. Our other director, Rahul, if you could give us a wave, Rahul. He is a really experienced commercial lawyer with about 20 years under his belt working in commercial law. Inder and Rahul came together with the idea to build this firm so that they could provide startups with really good quality access to BD and legal, being their areas of expertise. My name's Telt. Hello. I'm a lawyer. I have a background in marketing and business development. I'm working at Allied Legal with Rahul and Inder. So I've put our email addresses and our LinkedIns in the chat box if you want to get in touch with us directly after the Q&A session. But for now, with our credentials out of the way, I'd like to pass it over to you guys. Go ahead, ask away, put your comments in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask in person. Nothing's off the table as long as it relates to startups. So go ahead.
So Anita has asked, joint venture versus business partners, contract terms, IP and other considerations. There's a fair, sorry, do you want to elaborate, Anita? Can you put that into a question for me to answer?
That's all right, I can speak on this one. So quite often, as a small business, we want to limit our risk. Say, for example, if it is a platform owner, they want to have a service available for people to search, put a review and do the internal referral, or is it better to do a joint venture? So we have got 5 different service providers, very strong, we know each other really well, we can work together on any case together. However, it might mean that if we have got potential clients that might have different preference, or how do we limit our conflict of interest? And if there's IP involved, how do we make sure we are protected in that sense? I know that we encourage people to collaborate, but at the same time, if something didn't go right, it can be very messy.
Yeah, sure. So look, I'll try and simplify that question first, because there's a fair bit there that you rattled off. So I guess the first part is protecting the liability. You know, so you're involved in you mentioned before, a platform that you're looking to set up that I believe brings professional advisors, connects them to people who are looking for such advisors, right? So it's that platform by itself needs to be owned or is owned at the moment through some means. You might own it personally, which exposes you personally to any liability that might come from you know, any loss or damage that someone suffers. The easiest way to protect your liability is to incorporate a company and make sure that the platform is housed within that, because there's a separate legal a company is a standalone legal entity, and thereby your personal liability is protected. As far as working with other people is concerned, if these are other people who are looking to also have a stake in your in your platform or your business, well, they could own shares in your company. That's one part. But if I understand your question correctly, you're talking about people you want to collaborate with. And if you're talking about just collaborating with others in a commercial sense, well, that can be documented by way of agreement, so everyone's clear on their rights and liabilities as against each other. That would be the simplest way to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, I might ask a bit more on the template later on.
Sure.
Anita, I saw that you put in your question IP and other considerations, and David has also wanted to ask about IP protection. Do either of you guys want to clarify what you want to know there about intellectual property?
Yeah, we develop software. So at the moment, I have our names trademarked. I have trademark protection on those. I'm assuming the copyright protection is automatic on the software itself because I'm writing it. Is there other stuff I need to consider? I mean, they're the trademark and copyright with the two that immediately popped into my mind.
Yeah.
Is there other stuff I should be thinking about?
Yes, there is. So once you've got the software ready to take to market,
yeah.
You have to work out. You need to ensure that there are there's a framework around how someone can use this, right?
Yep.
Because you're not just giving it away. You're presumably going to charge them a monthly subscription. Or
I hope so. Yes.
For an annual fee, exactly. And so, in terms of protecting your IP, you're absolutely right. You own that, but in allowing others to use it, you need to have a terms and conditions,
yep.
which attaches to your software, which makes it clear that either yourself or a company you've incorporated is the owner of this software, and
yep.
all you're doing is giving people a right to use your software, and that's pursuant to a license.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's the way you protect it, and obviously those terms and conditions will be will set out protections in your favor in relation to, you know, all you're doing is allowing someone to use your software. If there's any loss or damage or anything like that they may suffer as a result of it, you're not taking
yep.
any responsibility. But more than anything, to answer your question, those terms and conditions make it quite clear that there's nothing about the use of your software which assigns ownership
yep.
rights to the user. But over and above that, if you're talking about registering or through through a body or anything like that, no, yep. The two issues you covered off in terms of your trademark and the copyright you hold, you're on the money there. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, how watertight are those? We take all care but no responsibility type clauses, though, in the terms and conditions. And also, I mean, I know there's the problem with having terms and conditions after they've entered into the contract. So, I mean, I can probably show it to them. I mean, we will deal in terms of money with one organization. The people actually using the software will be using it for free. It's sort of through our servers to that organization. So, I mean, the people that are going to give us money are actually going to be signing paperwork. So I don't have a problem with terms and conditions with them. They're going to get the contract beforehand. Will I assume have read it before they sign it and start paying us. But like the free users will download the piece of software, which means, we've offered it, they've accepted it. Is it a problem then imposing more conditions after? The shoe lane parking case with the tickets, their conditions on the back of the parking ticket.
Sorry, is there, so if I...
Well, I mean, I don't know how things have changed. I mean, the original case for this is an 1800s case, but if I do the terms and conditions after someone has downloaded and started using the software, downloaded the software, they've installed it on their phone, then they see the terms and conditions.
So you might very often see when you've downloaded an app, or even with Microsoft, sometimes with some of the software that you're using, you'll get an email to say Microsoft has changed its terms. Here they are, and that's self-executing. And so if this is your software and people are using it at the moment pursuant to
license.
But effectively no conditionality because they downloaded it and they're using it. The simplest way to do it would be to provide them with your T's and C's, and to let them know that their continued use of your software in itself amount to their acceptance of these.
Acceptance by action,
Yeah, correct. And if they choose not, and if they've got a problem with it, then they can stop using it, and that would be the way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's also what could go wrong. I appreciate that. That's the other question. I don't know what your software does, but in the case of many clients, we have scenarios where there is a level of there's a lot of platforms these days where you're linking two people together, a business and an end customer by way of example, and so something goes wrong there. I think Anita's platform is service providers to an end user. Let's say you get a dodgy lawyer provides the wrong advice. I mean, what happens there is the platform owner liable. Of course, you want to make sure that you exclude all liability for something like that, right? It's like the Uber scenario as well. You take a drive in Uber, the guy has an accident, Uber excludes all liability for that.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Any other questions have we got?
Is there anything in chat? I have one about NDAs, right? There's one person, we wanted to do a event like this with him, and he said, yep, let's do an event. I want to do an event, but we had put the date and everything organized. Then he said, before we do the event, I want you guys to sign this NDA. I'm like, what? Why? Because we are sharing our screen, we're sharing our presentation, our IP is going. And that's like, what if one of the presenters, we are recording it and it goes all over. And if somebody takes your IP and we are going to get sued, I said, no, I'm not going to sign the NDA. That's it. And that's it. We didn't have the event. So I know investors are very reluctant to sign NDAs as well. Do you want to talk about NDAs? Because I didn't even know what it was really in detail. It's a sales and marketing business development guy, but he wanted the NDA signed. So, I mean,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's very risky to sign NDAs, isn't it?
So non-disclosure agreements or confidentiality agreements, they definitely have a place. And the whole idea there is obviously anything that is shared between parties is held confidential, in a confidential way, right? Manner. Now they have their place. By way of example, we're doing a transaction now where someone is selling their business, and they will be sharing business sensitive information with potential purchasers, and they don't want people who are coming in, and a lot of those potential purchasers are going to be their competitors, and they don't want a purchaser coming in looking at their financials, looking at their the way they operate, and then they walk away from the deal and then exposed to the world and sundry that what they've been privy to. So there is a place for it. In the context that you mentioned, Atula, with investors, you're right. At times, investors don't like to sign NDAs in the startup context, and that can be very often because professional investors, and especially venture capital, they don't want to be restricted, right? So if they are someone is saying to them, I've got this great idea, I've come up with this innovation, and well, we're looking for investors, but here's an NDA you sign. And sometimes these NDAs can also have restrictions in terms of competition and all that kind of stuff. Well, from an investor's perspective, just because if they look at your idea, they don't like it, but they've got tomorrow a similar idea, which they do like, because they might like the founders behind that idea. There might be a few things different, but they really like that team. They don't want to be restricted from investing in that other opportunity. So there are legitimate reasons why someone might not want to sign an NDA, but most of the time, broadly speaking, the people should be fairly okay with signing them. The example of the guy presenting a webinar, I mean, that's a bit ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, you're sharing and whatnot. I don't understand it in that context, but but otherwise,
I in that instance, I just couldn't see the point in it. But yeah, startups, sometimes founders shoot themselves in the foot. They don't like to even come and pitch their idea at our pitch night, thinking that someone might steal it. But that's, I think, stupid, isn't it? Because you need to get your idea out as much as possible. That's what I believe in.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing with that is, I mean, if it's just an idea, it's just that, right? I mean, anyone can have an idea. And eventually, once you've developed something and you're looking to go to market with it, and software is a good example. Most things that people are inventing these days are software. There's not really a lot you can do to protect it anyway. People can copy. There's seek.com.au. There's now a million different job seeking sites. So this whole idea that we'll keep it confidential can be you're right. Look, there are times when you think that you've come up with something that is so groundbreaking that you might want to hold off sharing your idea until you've developed it to a certain stage, and because the investors that you might be seeking might be very it might be very strategic or whatever, but in general terms, I think the speed to market tends to be the main competitive advantage you can have. So you want to get out
and
I
also
how you, if we can sorry, Atula, just if and
also how you execute it, isn't it? How you execute it is Okay.
And if you could talk more on the importance of that taking your idea and talking about it, that validation from a business development and marketing perspective.
I would say even from an NDA perspective, right? Like there could probably put some restrictions on yourself in some cases, right? In being able to put that restriction in place, be able to talk about your idea. And a lot of times what you want to be able to do is in fact freely be able to talk about your idea to see if there is some substance to it, right? And can you get some actual traction and gravity that pulls towards it? And a lot of times you want to be able to go through that process in terms of actually being able to talk to clients to get that validation. What you don't want to be doing is work in a silo, right? And build something and then hope people will come to it afterwards, right? You actually want the opportunity to validate. I'm going to follow on just for David for a moment, right? You're talking a little about IP protection. Could you share a little bit in terms of like, how would you characterize what stage you're at right now?
Where it works. I mean, it's there. It needs tweaking. We're at the stage where we'd like to get some real world feedback from it. Basically, it's a communications platform for use in aged care, and we need to get. We would like a bit of real world feedback from some aged care workers to tell us, yes, you did that bit well. This bit doesn't work. That sort of thing. We're after. So we're at the stage of having a working product. I mean, we've shown it. We've done 2 trade shows now, showing it off. I've given talks at industry events about the technologies that are sitting behind it. Rather than do an NDA, I actually even show people code to get the word out there. In fact, it's funny. When we started, there was one other product that was very vaguely like what we were doing, but like the specifics were completely different. And I thought they were going about it completely the wrong way. We were going exactly the opposite way. Recently, their website has changed, and they're now doing it the same way as we do. In fact, they pretty much pinched most of the ideas. The only thing I know is that they don't have a developer. I've taught programming for 30 years. I have people I know pretty much everywhere in the software industry in Australia.
Right.
And these people can't get a developer. So I'm not worried about them pinching the idea because it's taken us 2 years to develop it.
You're right. A lot of times it's more than the idea. It's how you come across executing and implementing it.
Well, that's right. I mean, they can pinch what they like, but I know they just can't get staff at the moment. So
Right.
that's all right.
What prompted your idea in aged care and communication? What prompted that?
So what platform? Oh, prompted it. Basically, if you've got your child in daycare, you'll get photographs every day of them finger painting or eating their lunch or whatever. If you've got your dog at the vet or at the kennel, they'll send you a picture each day of him out running around in the yard. If your mum's in aged care, you hear nothing. You get a bill occasionally, but nothing else. So basically, we want to bring that continual small scale, unimportant in inverted commas communications to aged care. So we've made it very easy for the providers to very quickly and securely send messages to the families of the people who are in care.
And that's so important, especially at this time as well, with everything going on from isolation too.
Yeah, it would have been nice if we were about 6 months earlier, but yeah, I mean, it's fully secure. It only goes to the people that are meant to get it. I mean, in aged care, the big information gets developed. It gets delivered. You know, if someone is sick or they're off to hospital or something, that information gets sent. But a lot of it is, did mum see the physio? You know, is she eating well? Did she get to go to the tulip festival, sort of thing? And it's those little frequent communications, 2 or 3 a day, that really give families peace of mind, and also stop the aged care places being able to get away with some of the abuses that we've seen. And one of the big problems has been the lack of communication between aged care, or the lack of anybody keeping an eye on it. The federal government was doing a terrible job of monitoring. So if you're getting a couple of messages each day, you can see how your mum or your grandpa's doing in care. And what we'd like to happen, it doesn't have to be our software, is we'd like it to get to the stage it now is in daycare, where you don't send your kid to a daycare centre that does not provide that feedback throughout the day. We'd like to see that in aged care. That, you know, if an aged care facility is not providing that information somehow on a regular basis, then you don't consider them as being a suitable place for your loved ones.
No, that's fair. How long ago have you started this? How long ago?
I've been working on it full time now for about 1.5 years. About a half a year before that, when I was still working full time teaching, we were doing it. So yeah, it's there, it's ready to go. We're at the stage where all the families we show it to, they like it. The managers, the workers, they like it. Unfortunately, none of them are the people that spend the money. Yeah, the money spenders are the next level up. And in fact, we've been hearing that a lot of time they never go to the facilities. And the further they can stay away, the better. We have heard horror stories about, you can't spend $6.50 a day on food. Your maximum is $6. That's per person per day. Yeah. So
how have you been going along in terms of getting feedback for your validation of your product?
Well, we need to get it into a working facility. I mean, we've done this, like, we've got friends a lot of people work in aged care. So we've shown it to those people outside of the care setting, and they like the idea. They think it will work well. We've got things like you can always use it with one hand, because as an aged care worker, often your other hand is busy. You know, it's helping an old person, or it's, handing out some medicine. So it's all been one hand designed. But we need that validation now. We need to have it someone who's doing it under time pressure with real patients. Yeah. And then stage 2 of that is to real families to see if they're happy with the information they're getting. And
you're beyond MVP now, right? You have a platform that's there that can be used?
Yeah. In fact, we've missed the MVP grant because we're too far advanced. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's been a lot of fun developing it. There's still bits and pieces I want to do. We're using artificial intelligence, but we've got basically we're one level up on the we use Amazon Web Services the same as the COVID-19 app. One actually have better security than they do, because for COVID, Amazon hold the keys for the government. In our case, we hold our keys. It's not even Amazon can decode our data or the data that's being shared. So we're at the stage now of really where we want I want a real world validation. In other words, I want someone to tell me, yeah, you've done that wrong, because I've designed it. And I'm not an aged care worker. I was a school teacher.
Right, but if you're thinking of family and friends and aged care workers, are you getting that real world feedback? Like when you say real world, what do you mean?
I need aged care workers who are using it in a facility, with all the pressures that come with that they're time poor. They don't want them to tell me that, this is really easy to do when we're doing this, or this is really hard. Could we make this better? And basically, it has to work as efficiently as possible for an aged care worker.
What are the challenges you're finding in trying to get that real world experience?
The people that spend the money, they're almost impossible to talk to. They hide away. They're corporate. They don't go to the facilities.
Right. What have you tried so far?
We've got a lot of LinkedIn.
Right.
We're also part of we got into the Sydney University Genesis program, their startup program. We were finalists in that. And that has given us access to a lot of business mentors, some of whom have links into aged care. So that's basically what we're following up at the moment.
But I think, David, what you need is actually running a user research, like an actual user research with set up like a question that to see how the users are feeling about it and how they interfere with the software. So it's not just kind of random question that you can get, because you need to see how this software are actually matching with your goals as well.
Yes.
And
I mean,
we can have a chat about it like later after.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to go into places and follow, first stages, I'm happy to go in. I mean, I've got working with aged care people checks done. So, that's all covered. But I'd be happy to go in with someone and just follow them around, even for an hour, to just see how they interact, and then go away, make some improvements, and come back and say, okay, now how is this going? I mean, we want to get it to the stage where when a busy, underpaid aged care worker, because that's what a lot of them are, pick this up, they go, this makes my job better.
Yeah, the problem was, it's a big topic actually to discuss about, because even recruiting some users to validate your idea requires even contracts, and I'm sure that Raul is aware of this. So there is to protect this user. So it's even a contract that he has to sign and say to you that yes, I give you permission to we'll discuss about this.
I think the two of you all should connect. I know Cloud very well. She helps us with our service design as well in Silicon Beach. She has given us a question to ask. You would have seen when you signed up. And when I joined Silicon Beach, ... and we are getting some feedback as to what people want. So thanks a lot, Cloud. So
thanks.
That's service design. So she would help you, David, with something like that. So that
thank you.
Should take it. So I think there was another question from Vikram.
Yep, Vikram. I think that's for you, Rahul.
Yeah, I'll get to Vikram's question. I'll just finish off a couple of things for David. David, we did a largish raising for a aged care platform earlier in the year. That are going places and doing quite well. So if you maybe shoot Tult an email, I know Tult has been sharing email addresses and stuff. I'll see if I can connect you guys up.
Thank you.
I'll reach out there. And the other thing is just as Cloud said, I mean, the benefit of a pilot, even if it's a free pilot, that can
we expected it would be free.
Is from an investor's perspective, and just getting traction is invaluable.
And I'll just add to that as well. I was actually helping another company as well kind of get into the aged care space. I think your idea is actually a fantastic idea. I think it is important, especially I'm sure everything you're seeing from a pandemic perspective now too. Yeah. Just compounds, by the way, the opportunity you've got, but also the challenges, because there is this distraction, right, that exists within the aged care community right now with everything going on. But if you want to kind of chat afterwards, I'd be happy to kind of give you some ideas and share some ideas
Oh, great. Thank you. And I'll pop my email into the chat so you've got it. And
So to get to Vikram's question, so the question is, he has an idea and they've started validation and market analysis. When should they think about incorporating an entity? So the answer there, Vikram, is if this is something that you guys are serious about, right away, because if you're looking to start spending money, if some of these activities are incurring costs, then you should be capturing it in the legal entity, which will eventually start making earning the revenue, right? Because that's where that'll be beneficial later on down the piece from a tax perspective, and even otherwise, you know, if you're expending money and the idea you've got is it could attract grants and whatnot, then it helps to show that you've got a corporate vehicle set up that has that all those expenditures are captured within. It's a fair question though. Sometimes people do jump in and just register a company when they're just very much an idea stage, and it can be a bit of a waste because, you know, there's a cost with registering a company, there's ongoing requirements. But if you are at validation, you've started validation market analysis, it's a little, you feel free to unmute and speak if you want as to how far down the path you are. But if it's something you're looking to do seriously, then you should.
No. I've been not previously. We have never done this previously. So I've been in the IT space for close to 13 years now, 14 years now. But this is the first time that we're venturing into something or starting up our own thing. But so right now what we are thinking about is we are just trying to reach out to people and pull up some market analysis for existing products, doing some competitor analysis and understanding whether or not there is a need for that particular product. If yes, then maybe we'll go ahead and, you know, start thinking about incorporating the entity. The reason I asked this question was because we already have like 5 to 6 people working with us, and obviously they're not working with us for money. They're working because they think that this is something that can work. So, but given this, given this current thing, my prerogative was, I mean, yeah, right now maybe it's because people think that it's gonna work and everything is going fine. But until unless we set up something, we don't have like a structure where we can say that, you know, who is liable for what, right? So I was just a little confused as to see whether or not at this point in time we should think about it, or maybe we start some development and then we start, you know, thinking about incorporating the company.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. You shouldn't be starting development and then incorporating. But yeah, I think you mentioned that you're not even sure if you're going to, if it's a valid idea at the moment. Once you decide it's a valid idea and you want to proceed with it, at that stage, I would suggest you should be doing it. One of the issues you've got obviously is you've got 5 to 6 people who are involved, and so that in itself can create a little bit of a complication in terms of who owns what, right?
Yeah.
At the time you decide to proceed. So the sooner you can, the sooner you, once you decide that this is got a market for it and it's a commercial opportunity that you want to progress, at that point you should be looking to register a company and make it clear through a very, even if it's a simplified one-pager collaboration, founders agreement, which makes it clear who's bringing what to the equation, right? Because that's the other important thing. Because right now, I don't know what level of analysis and validation you're doing, but whatever people are doing in their individual capacities, they own the intellectual property associated with it. And not a major issue now, given where you're at, but it can become if you let it go too far down the chain. So we do have clients that come to us with the fully fledged products that they have, and 2 or 3 of them that worked on it, and they've never registered a company. So the idea then becomes that we incorporate a company, but then there's an assignment of all the IP into that entity. The issue is if there's any value that is associated with some of that intellectual property, then it can just create complications from tax complications. It can also create complications just in terms of then deciding, if everyone's not getting along, it can also create issues because some people might not want to to become part of this venture. So yeah, but I think you've got it sounds like you're on the right path in terms of you're thinking about the right issue in terms of registering an entity, but probably once you've got your once you've decided to push the button on it.
Yeah, by the way, the other thing to add on here as well is it's also how the market reacts to you and receives you as well. So by actually having some form of a company and structure, it kind of adds to your commitment of what you're putting together and the efforts you're all putting together. But also when you actually go and start having meetings with clients or potential prospects, they know there's something else behind this as well, right? About why they're going to be talking to you. So that's the other part about around credibility.
Yep. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Vikram, put your details in the chat so people can connect with you. And I know Cloud would have some ideas for you to help you validate. She's an expert in helping people validate their ideas and service design. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much.
So, hello, Raul, in the Talat.
How are you?
I would like to ask.
Wait, Cloud, you're on mute, Cloud.
You're muted. Unmute.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was saying thank you, Sula, first, and then I was saying hi to Raul, Inda, and Talat. And I would like to ask you, because you mentioned in the beginning of this Q&A that a startup should involve the business development in the early stages. And I would like to know how do you think they should involve it in the early stages? Like how could it be in the early stages, the business development?
So can you just clarify that a bit further? Because when you're saying involved in the early stages, are you saying from bring somebody else in from the outside, or are you saying in terms of actually doing those activities?
I'm not actually, you mentioned it. So you mentioned in the beginning that the business development should be from the early stages as well. So I would like to know from you how it could be like.
I see. I remember that now. I think what I was saying was don't work in a silo, right? It's really important, right, to actually be not building a whole product and then bringing it to market, but you kind of want to be hand in hand with the external market out there, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you also want to have in mind in terms of, because everybody's after trying to get product market fit, right? How do you go through the process of actually saying, I've got a product, right? Here's a market that's out there, and is there a true fit, right? This is what you actually need to say. And once you have it, this is where you're also looking at VCs kind of coming in to help you to possibly grow, right? There's more interest, and it also means that you're possibly going to get some traction in that process as well when you have it, right? Yeah. So it is, I would say the business development part is important early, right? And it doesn't even have to be from a revenue producing perspective. It could even just be starting off, even getting the validation for your product.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I see the point.
Do you want to explain what that looks like though, practically? What do you mean by that?
In which way?
In terms of, so you've got, I'll give you that. So by way of example, we've got, I've got a client in the building industry at the moment, very specific product that they're developing. And what they've done is, I mean, he's very well connected, which obviously helps in terms of knows a lot of builders and whatnot. And in parallel with creating his software platform, which is essentially what it is. It's a SaaS product.
Yeah.
He is almost on a monthly basis contact potential clients of his to ask them, you know, to make sure that what he's developing is in keeping with something they would one day use. And that is beautiful, right? Because he's very confident that as and when he's ready to go to market, he will have a product that has a customer base for it. So I think that's an example of it will obviously depend on your ability to connect with people. It'll obviously depend on what your product does. But the earlier in the piece that you can get some level of traction from your customers that this is that you're solving a problem which they would pay for, the better. Yeah. So and that can be done. This goes back to the initial conversation we were having. I don't think you should be too worried about sharing your idea or whatnot. As long as obviously you're down a path of now developing your product and doing things, I don't think you should be too worried about sharing your idea with your potential end user, to make sure that you're actually solving a problem which they would pay for.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
By the way,
thank you.
and that's a good example just from the product market fit in terms of what you're validating. But there's also other things as well you can also be validating too, right? By involving and getting business development going early on. You could actually be testing and validating how the market is receiving you and your messages, right? And also your collateral and your assets that you're using too along the way, right? So what I mean there is there may be things that you're doing in your sales process. Maybe it's the LinkedIn messages that you're writing. Maybe it's the emails that you're putting out there, right? You can actually, in fact, start testing and validating that by asking for feedback, right? Versus just sending it straight out and hoping for a response back. You can actually ask potential, right, clients, right, for feedback on that as well. So there's also other things you can also be validating and testing in your sales process beyond the product market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I think one of the problems of startup when it comes to startup and products is that some developers actually develop really amazing products, but they don't know who are the target customers or target clients, and this is where they actually stuck. Like, they don't know how to get the word out to some people who might be interested in this product. So and I'm not sure if this is a sales process or a business development process. So
well, whether it's a sales process, business development process, I'll let Inder think about that.
Sure.
We practically we see this so often in the health space in particular. People come up with great ideas to disrupt, you know, the way you communicate within a hospital. At the moment people are using WhatsApp, we can create a nifty messenger where it's going to be all safeguarded and messages will be stored safely. I've seen those many communication type platforms that clients have developed and come up with, or other similar means where they're selling to dentists or doctors. Very difficult market to sell to, right? Because they're so established in their ways and they just don't buy. And so what happens is they've invested the money, they've created the product, and then they go to market, right? The ideas and the clients that we see do well. We've got an example at the moment where there's a dental clinician. He's an experienced dentist, but the platform he's creating, he again, through the development process, he has been liaising with his end users and customers to say, would you use a platform like this? And they're telling him yes, because there's, you know, and we would pay for it. Most importantly, would you use it and would you pay for it? Because there's two very different things. So I think the more validation you can do through the process and taking your customers through that and letting them know this is something you're doing, it kind of obliges them then at the end of it to also come on board, right? Because you've taken them on the journey, and so it's not a bad way of gaining a little bit of traction and doing it that way. Another example, we've got it's a startup out of WA, great product in the oil and gas space, but again, it was a technical guy developed it, but really struggling to sell, because again, oil and gas, it's an industry with which been in there, you'd have a better idea of the sales cycle there, but it's hard to sell to. So
yeah, you know what, it's a bit of art and science, right? Trying to narrow down that sweet spot, right? Say this is your ideal customer, right? You know, working with one client which was using a very broad brush approach, right? Whoever would talk to him, it was like he was, you know, that's who he would be selling to, right? Once we started working very closely together and saying, this is your offer, and this is who you're actually starting to target, and this is starting to resonate, we actually did a bunch of validation and trial audiences. We actually found a sweet spot in the education sector, right? Even with everything going on right now with the coronavirus and the education sector right now as well, we've actually discovered that this actually is a very good sector to be in for this very specific offering, right? And in fact, what we're starting to see is that is a sweet spot, but then even then when you go into the education sector, then you got to determine, is it higher education, right? Is it below that, right? In terms of the secondary schools, And also, when you get into that sector, then who are the titles and who are the people that this would resonate with? So you're selling to somebody very specific, right? So that's a process we've kind of gone through in terms of really zeroing it in on here's your ideal customer, right? But it's an art and a science, but it all starts with actually talking to potential clients.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great discussion, because I know a lot of startup founders in our community, because a lot of them are tech people, they know how to code. So they build a great product and find that nobody wants it. So this is where idea validation and talking to customers, there's a very good saying by Steve Blank, and if anyone watching this on the recording or should Google, I think it's a lean canvas, lean methodology by Steve Blank. It is actually a free online course where he takes people through this validation process. And he actually says, get out of the building and talk to customers, which very few tech startup people do, because they're very, very comfortable behind the keyboard in front of a screen rather than talking to people face to face. So that's what Silicon Beach about, is getting people face to face. Great. Any other questions? Lean stack. Yeah, thanks, Dave, for putting that. Yeah.
Good.
Dave, you have been silent. Do you have any questions?
You know, when we started this initiative, Atula told us that the feedback he gets is that lawyers charge too much, and we are
yes.
is because people will have questions to ask. You go, Atula, I think you've been proved wrong.
Yes, that's good. People are not afraid to ask questions on this forum. That's good. We should do this regularly. Q&A or office hours, legal hours. We call it legal hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, on the legal front, if there's like before this started, I had noted down 7 key things that I think every startup should think about. Okay, from a legal perspective, and maybe I'll just quickly rattle them off. And none of this is rocket science. I'm sure you all know these things, but just in case, number 1, and we've touched upon this, the correct structure. That's first and foremost. Number 2, if you're working in a group and with people, founders agreements or shareholders agreements, because you need clarity on who is responsible for what. The number of disputes we see in the startup space, because it's the one thing with startup space is when everyone at the outset, everyone is really excited that looking to solve the world's problems. But a year or 2 in, there's that level of lethargy and it becomes real and they can be falling out. So a founder's agreement or a shareholder's agreement, securing your intellectual property, right? And that can be, at times you can actually do something where, for example, David mentioned they've got trademarks in place, but otherwise just making sure it's housed in a proper way. They're not individuals who own the IP, making sure that if you've developed something that it's clear how someone gets to use it, and we touched upon that. Then there's the getting to market bit, that's your terms and conditions. If you've got a specific idea, specific sector-based idea, making sure you've got all the approvals that you need to actually make this idea work, right? So, by way of example, Talt and I are working at the moment with a startup that is going to be providing online tuition. And they've got a very specific target audience, which is kids. And so, we need to make sure that they've got approvals there. We do a lot of work with startups in the financial sector. They often need to be licensed. Again, they can go on through a journey, spending money they didn't realize they need licenses. And these licenses can be quite complex to get hold of. And, just the time limit, the time it takes to get them through ASIC or the other regulators can take a while. You might be collecting personal information, aged care, we discussed before, where you're collecting personal info of patients, clients, making sure you're on top of what your obligations are in that regard with storage of that information and how you disseminate it. Then as you start to grow, introducing investors, there's a whole legal landscape around that. And just on a practical level, the advice would be make sure you're investor ready, make sure you have a clean cap table, make sure you are clear on your value or what your valuation is, all those sorts of issues. And then there's the employee relations part of it, right? As you start onboarding people to help you, whether it's as someone mentioned in the startup space, very often people will help you for not payment, but in the expectation that they'll get equity or they'll get some other form of consideration. So employee relations, making sure that things are clearly documented is again an important part of it. And there are obligations even in the startup space. Once you've incorporated a company and you're bringing people on, you're now an employer. So making sure that those would probably be the key 6 or 7 items, line issues that no startup should be aware of. And if you're obviously, then there's other commercial arrangements that someone mentioned before. The lady transactions, that's obviously always going to have legal implications.
Yeah. Thanks, Rahul. That's really good. And talking about investment, there's an event coming up, the next Allied Legal event, which is now on meetups. Just give me a sec.
I think that's next week. Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's next week. Yeah. And yeah, that's what to do when you're expecting investment. So that's really great. Make sure you did that as well. Expecting investment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we can probably wrap it up then if there's no other questions. And but yeah, I think look, I think it was still worthwhile to look. Maybe we will do these on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, this on an ongoing basis. So thanks for listening to all the people on the video. I'll just stop the recording there. Thank you for watching.